WiSP Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello and welcome to the WiSP Sports Desk here, weekly news show. This is season 2, episode 7. I'm Chris Stafford, and I'm joined by
Nancy Gillen.
I know you're just back from Fiji, an exhausting trip that you had over there for a boxing forum. Tell us about that. I mean, was it worth the trip? Because it's a long way to go for a few days.
Yeah, it was worth the trip. It was quite interesting to visit that part of the world, and yeah, the forums are kind of a way of the boxing federation to meet with a lot of the national federations. And obviously in Oceania, you've got a lot of very, very small countries, or like including Fiji, where the event was. So it was quite interesting to hear about some of the problems that smaller countries have, and they kind of were, voicing a lot of their issues, which was interesting because you don't normally hear their perspective. So yeah, it was worth the journey, I think.
And what did you mainly learn from it then? What's the purpose of those forums?
Well, it's kind of, for the Boxing Federation, they're just in a lot of trouble at the moment, and most people probably know that they aren't organising the boxing competition at the Olympics this year because they've essentially had their Olympic status stripped from them. So they're going around the world and holding continental forums to try and just increase the dialogue, I think, between the federation and the national federations, and just trying to, I don't know, sort issues out kind of as a general, with countries, rather than just kind of going from the leadership trying to sort out an issue. They're actually talking to all the separate countries involved and trying to improve the situation, which was, it was interesting to hear. I think it was the Fijian boxing president. He was quite vocal about the fact that they felt quite ignored in Oceania because they've got the Olympic qualifying for Oceania has been put together with the Asian qualifiers for the past two Olympics, so Tokyo and Rio, and that's just led to a complete lack of Oceanian boxers competing at the Olympics, and they just they feel kind of quite ignored and neglected and underfunded. So it was interesting to hear that, and a lot of the federation presidents were really happy that they'd actually got a chance to speak to the boxing president and so on, because I don't think that's something that normally happens.
Well, then this is not the first one you've been to. You've been to others, and there's more to come. But you were telling me before we started on air here that you were meant to go to Italy, but now that's been cancelled. There was another forum coming up that's been cancelled because of the coronavirus. So we'll be talking about that extensively in just a moment. But yeah, it's interesting where boxing is right now, that they are trying to rally around and get themselves in some order after, the prospects of them being, kicked out of the Olympics. That might have just jolted them a bit.
Yeah, I think it definitely has, and they are trying to fix stuff. Whether it's kind of more superficial or it's actually going to bring about change, I think we're just going to have to wait and see. But obviously there's so much riding on everything they do now because they just really want to get back to having Olympic status. I think they're quite affected. It was interesting, a lot of the countries were saying, obviously a lot of funding has now stopped because they don't have access to the IOC, like Olympic solidarity funding anymore.
Yes. So
obviously that's like a really big impact on like the tiny countries you've got in Oceania, like Fiji and Tonga. So yeah, when I kind of at that meeting, I kind of realised that it's not just, the fact they're not in the Olympics anymore, but it's actually affecting stuff like funding and so on.
Yes, I'm sure, absolutely. But yeah, and you probably, with such a short visit, you didn't get a chance to see much of the beaches in Fiji.
Well, the hotel I was staying on was on the beach, so I was quite lucky that I did. Every so often, I had an hour or so free, and I went to walk up and down the beach. It was an amazing country. Definitely go back on holiday.
Aha.
despite the fact it takes a long time to get there.
Yeah, just spend a bit longer next time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the top story this week, which just broke today in Vanity Fair, and that is that Maria Sharapova is hanging up her tennis racket. She says she's retiring, but not quitting completely, but she's been in a lot of pain, hasn't she, in recent months. She had shoulder surgery last year, a year ago, I think it was, January 19. And she just hasn't got right. That's just still niggling her. And she said when she's been playing this year, when she watches herself, it's been really, really painful. Knowing the pain when she looks at herself and the shots, how much pain was playing a part of her game in the end. So it's not too much of a surprise. I mean, she's 32, and I mean, she's such a sports star without actually being on court, isn't she?
Yeah, I think she's kind of one of those people that is almost. People know her not separately from her tennis career, but she's just one of those sporting names that people even aren't interested in tennis. She's just famous anyway. But yeah, I think we were talking about her a few weeks ago because she was played at the Australian Open, and I think did she go out in the first round? Was it? I think
pretty early, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, almost kind of straight away, and she was a wild card for that, so she hadn't even qualified kind of directly for the competition. So yeah, like you said, it's not necessarily a big shock, but it's just kind of an absence, someone that is now going to be absent from women's tennis who has been there for like forever. I mean, she's been in tennis ever since I've been following it, really. I can't really think of a time when Sharapova hasn't been playing tennis.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what she does now, because she's implying that she's not leaving the sport, just giving up playing, retiring from obviously being a professional player. So I think she has so much following and personality that she'll probably play a major role somewhere. So we'll follow that with interest, see what she does, and I'm sure she'd be brilliant at whatever she does. She'll be a very good commentator, for example. She probably gets some media work for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she probably will do that, or maybe coaching. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, the coronavirus, as we mentioned just now, it's totally dominating the news this week. I mean, we've been warned about it over here in the US. It's not a question of if, but when we get it. But it's impacting sport all over the world now, isn't it? We've got several stories about how it's impacted different sporting events there, Nancy.
Yeah. And I think, well, it's not just China anymore. I think previously we've talked about events being cancelled in China, which I suppose makes sense because that was where the outbreak started. But I mean, just in the past couple of days, events in South Korea are being cancelled. I think South Korea is the second country most affected by coronavirus. So I think the World Team Table Tennis Championships, that was postponed yesterday. And then today it was the World Short Track Speed Skating Championships. They've been cancelled, and I think that's been cancelled too late to almost reschedule it. So I don't know if that's just not going to go ahead. So yeah, that's two in South Korea. And then there's a badminton event in Vietnam has been cancelled. And then we were talking earlier about Italy. So yeah, I was going to go to Italy this weekend for another of the boxing forums, but coronavirus has spread there very quickly. So that has led to another spate of cancellations. So yeah, the boxing forum I was meant to go to, and then there was also a para alpine skiing event which has been cancelled. So it's kind of spreading to a lot of other Asian countries. So essentially, kind of any sporting event now happening in Asia has been cancelled, and then we've started now to get European sporting events cancelled. And it's we were saying before as well, obviously Europe is a very there's not kind of any hard borders. It's people are free to go wherever. So I don't know whether it will be able to be contained in Italy. So I think we might see more sporting events in various parts of Europe cancelled in the next couple of weeks, probably.
Yeah, there was also one in where was it, in Seoul? I think you mentioned South Korea there, but there was also the World short track speed skating championships. That was another one that was cancelled there. They've closed the ice rink completely for all competitions down there too. So that's a few, and I think it's just going to continue. You mentioned there in Italy how that's really been affected, and I know Inter Milan, they play their home game on this Thursday to tomorrow without spectators, and Japan, China, South Korea, all those domestic leagues have cancelled their fixtures.
Yeah, I think the Italian Football League, I think that was one of the first things for all the matches being postponed there. That was one of the first signs in Italy that it was getting quite bad. And you mentioned Japan there. So obviously the Olympics are taking place this summer in Japan. And I think there is a bit of worry about, is coronavirus going to affect the Olympics? Not too sure at the moment.
And what they're saying is they will give it a couple of months. They have to cancel it 2 months out if they're going to. It can't be relocated somewhere else. I mean, obviously, it's far too huge to do that, especially at short notice. So it could be completely cancelled. If we get to 2 months out would be May, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's almost probably the problem, is that they wouldn't want to do anything now because it could be too premature. But by the time they get to the point where they do have to cancel it, it would be too late to relocate or go somewhere else. I think May is almost the deadline. So we're just going to have to see. I think no one quite knows what's going to happen with coronavirus, or when it's going to peak, or what countries it's going to spread to. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see, and hope in the next 3 months it shows some sign of going down. Because if the Olympics was cancelled, it would just, it's never really happened before apart from for war. So
it was, funnily enough, it was Tokyo, I believe, in 1940. They were supposed to be hosting the games, and then there was the war with Japan against China, and then the Second World War. So that was cancelled. But do you remember the Rio Games? That was subject to an outbreak of Zika virus, and they threatened to cancel that, didn't they, in 2016? But it wasn't as bad certainly not as bad as this, and not as bad as they first thought.
Yeah, I think, and Zika, even though it was in Brazil, the host country, but it didn't seem to be, it wasn't, I don't think, as contagious. I don't think it spread as fast. And I can't remember, I wasn't a journalist in 2016, but I don't remember it having this impact on the sporting calendar, like globally.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't, the number of sporting events being cancelled in 2016 that there are now. Like, this is almost unprecedented. It's just any sport, like, it's something happening in 2 months, even if it's in the Euros in Europe. I don't, there's a question mark over every sporting event now, really.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a dark cloud hanging over us, and we'll keep you posted every week here on the WiSP Sports Desk with any news that we can find on the coronavirus and how it's impacting sport. We're down in Australia, where the sun is shining on the England cricket team right now after their really appalling defeat recently from against South Africa. That was really bad form. Well, they've turned that around, and Heather Knight now has become the first England cricketer to score centuries in both Tests, ODIs, and IT20s. She scored 108 not out against Thailand in Canberra just now, and it was wonderful to watch. There's a video clips of the highlights of that innings when she was literally knocking it all over the park. So congratulations to her. That's always nice for the captain to show the way, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was saying it's a shame I haven't been able to watch much of that tournament because of the time difference, but it's been really good to see all the highlights and clips, and I think a lot of people are watching it, which is good news. Yeah,
good for them. Well, on they go with that T20 series, and good luck to England, obviously. I'm cheering them on. Now, back to the winter sport of soccer. Well, winter in the some hemispheres, but of course over here we play it in the summer as well. And the US soccer team has been making the news. They're unbeaten. the women's soccer team, since January of last year. They have not lost a game, Nancy.
Yeah, I mean, that's impressive when you consider that there's been a World Cup in that time period as well.
It is, but they're also making news off the pitch as well with the impending trial. Now, that trial is set to begin. They are claiming discrimination, sexual discrimination, and that trial is meant to begin on May the 5th, but both the players and the federation, the US Soccer Federation last week, filed motions of summary judgment. And in their filing, the players revealed that they are seeking now almost $67 million in damages. So this is going to come to a head very shortly here. I don't know if they'll avoid the courts, but meanwhile, whilst they're playing, they'll be looking for the to make their mark in the She Believe and Cup that's coming up here shortly. Kicks off in Orlando at the beginning of next month, and that is important. That is going to be a really interesting series because they, as I said, they have not been beaten. They've done really well with the Olympic qualifiers. They qualified, as we know, just recently for the Olympics. But they're going to be facing England, Spain, and Japan, as we've mentioned here. If that goes ahead, I mean, you've got Japan coming in, England, if the coronavirus gets to England before then, it will be interesting to see. That first game is March the 5th in Orlando, and then they play Spain in New Jersey on the 8th, and Japan in Texas on the 11th. So we'll watch that because, there's two things going on here, obviously, with their court case, whether they win that, whether it actually does go to trial, but also the She Believe Cup that could fall victim to the coronavirus quite easily, couldn't it? I mean, it's just coming up very shortly.
Especially because it's only a 4-team tournament. I mean, you only need like a couple of teams to withdraw because of coronavirus, and it's just then one match between two teams. So it definitely could, and I think it would be a shame because, well, I suppose all sporting events at the moment are in the same position. But that for that is the She Believes Cup is a really good preparation tournament for the Olympics and kind of to judge where each team is, especially for Japan as a host country, like the US. Looking for their 5th Olympic gold medal, I think. And, it would have been really good to, well, hopefully it does go ahead, but if it is cancelled, it would be a shame because I think teams will be a lot less prepared for the Olympic Games. Yeah,
it really will make a big difference. And as you say, if you've got Japan and Spain is awfully close to Italy, so if those two pulled out, then...
Yeah, it's not really a tournament anymore.
No, it isn't. It isn't. All right. Well, we'll follow that, of course, with all the rest of the soccer news here. And there's one good story coming out of women's soccer from a surprise country. You found this story this morning coming out of Saudi Arabia, Nancy. This is really good news.
Yeah. So they're launching a female football league, which is just
in Saudi Arabia.
In Saudi Arabia,
of all places. Who would have thought?
I know, and it's really surprising because they've only 2 years ago, women were completely banned from football. And obviously Saudi Arabia is known for being extremely strict for women living there. There's certain rules have only just been relaxed, such as females have only just been allowed to drive in the past 2 years. Traveling abroad without male guardian's permission. Like restaurants used to be segregated. These are only things that have changed really, really recently. Now the fact that they've got launching a female football league is just amazing. It obviously doesn't kind of fix everything, but it's really good news, I think. And I think it's the main kind of thing is to boost female participation in sport. I think because it is quite a strict country against women, and there's certain, I suppose, issues with kind of female decency. I suppose they're very strict on that there, that it's kind of hard for women to participate in some sports. It's really good that I think they're kind of looking at trying to increase female participation in sport there. And it's hopefully everything goes well, and it's just a good sign of things progressing there.
It's really good news for women there in the region. and for women's soccer worldwide. Now, our final story is, unfortunately, a doping offence. We don't often get through a show without a doping offence, do we?
No, yeah, it's quite a regular occurrence. But this one is from London 2012, which is 8 years ago now. And it always intrigues me when they find tests from Olympics kind of, that are so far past. But this is quite an interesting case because it's an Albanian sprinter. Her name is Claudiana Shala. It didn't seem like she actually competed. It says she was due to compete in the 200 metres, but withdrew injured. But obviously, because she's still registered at the game, she's still subject to kind of the anti-doping rules that cover the Olympics. So her test was found to have a banned steroid. And yeah, so she's been provisionally suspended. So it's quite interesting that obviously it's from so long ago that she didn't actually compete. And she's, probably going to get a ban now because of that. So yeah, I think they're still reanalyzing London 2012 samples, but that's ending in August. I think there's a certain amount of time that you can hold doping samples. I think that ends in August. So probably for the next few months, we still might get a few athletes coming out that are going to be banned because of something they did 8 years ago, which is quite amazing, really.
I wonder how much this will actually impact her now. She's 40 years of age. She's already done 3 Olympics, Sydney, Athens, and Beijing. She's in the twilight of her sprinting career, I would say, unless she continues in Masters. So I wonder realistically how much this will hurt her if she does get sanctioned.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would really. And I mean, it says that she competed at 4 Olympic Games and her last one was London 2012. So she wasn't at Rio. And yeah, that you'd assume then she probably wasn't aiming for Tokyo either. So yeah, it probably wouldn't have that much impact. And I suppose that goes, that's the whole debate that obviously they are finding out things from 8 years ago. But for a lot of athletes, they would have got away with it at that point, and it's not actually going to affect their career.
Yeah. Well, just going back to the coronavirus, as I mentioned to you before, Nancy, I was due to go to the dressage and jumping World Cup finals that are taking place in Vegas at the end of April. And I was about to book my flights and hotel yesterday. I'm thinking, maybe hold off, because we just got a lot of publicity yesterday warning us that it's not a matter of not a matter of if the coronavirus comes to the US. It's just a case of when. And so that really could impact sporting events here like it has around the world. And not least of all, something like Vegas anyway, with people from all over the world constantly, and everybody indoors, all the time. And then the event at the Thomas & Mack Centre, again, an indoor event. So I've hit pause on booking my flights for there.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea, just to see how it all turns out, really.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that's about it for this week. Nancy, what are you going to be covering in the next week?
Well, yeah, I was expecting to go to Italy, so that's been pulled. So I'm not too sure, but I imagine more coronavirus stories and, yeah, whatever comes up.
Whatever comes up, and that's all on InsideTheGames.biz. You can follow Nancy's writings. If it comes to sports, she covers it. So stay tuned on that, and also follow her on social media at Nancy_Gillen. I've got it right this time, Nancy.
Yep,
Nancy_Gillen on Twitter. And we are, of course, at WiSP Sports. And we'll be back with another episode of the WiSP Sports Desk next week, when presumably you will still be in the UK, Nancy.
Yeah, I will be. I think I don't know how much coronavirus is going to affect our work trips, but there might be a bit of a reduction of travelling, maybe.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. They're going to be cautious, I would have thought, because you've got journalists that fly all over the world constantly, don't you?
Yeah. We don't want someone to end up in accidental quarantine.
No, that would affect all of you, obviously. All right, well, we'll keep you posted here on WiSP Sport. Don't forget to check out some of the other podcasts here. We cover every sport for women around the world. And if you want every sport for all genders, go to insidethegames.biz, and we'll be back next week with another episode of the WiSP Sports Desk. Until then, thank you for listening and helping us turn up the volume for women's sports.